All right, welcome back, everybody. We ask for it, we get it. Another deep dive. But this one, oh boy, this one is a doozy.
Yeah, I mean, BlackRock, right? Corporate power, potentially a new feudalism. It's a lot.
A lot to unpack. This article, summarizing a Whitney Webb video, really doesn't pull any punches, just throws it out there.
Right out the gate, yeah.
So to even wrap our heads around this, can we, I don't know, like rewind a bit? When we hear feudalism, it's all knights and castles, right? Not exactly 2024.
Not the vibe, no. But I mean, the structure, the power dynamics, that's where this comparison, I think, starts to maybe make a little more sense.
Instead of controlling land, it's like corporations, especially these financial behemoths like BlackRock, calling the shots.
That's the gist, yeah. And the article doesn't just say neo-feudalism and move on. It actually tries to lay out, how we even get there.
So what are we talking? Give me, like, the highlight reel of red flags this video is waving.
One of the biggest ones is how crises, especially economic ones, can be used to, well, let's just say, push through policies that maybe wouldn't fly otherwise. Policies that often benefit, a very specific slice of the population.
And the COVID pandemic, that's their prime example, isn't it?
Front and center. They basically say BlackRock. Because they're BlackRock, they saw this coming. And not just saw it, potentially took advantage of the whole thing.
Hold on. Capitalized on a global pandemic? How much evidence is there to back that up? That's a hefty accusation.
Well, for one, they were ready for the economic crash, like thoroughly ready. They had models predicting it, even gave policy advice. And this is before things really went south.
So it's not necessarily some Illuminati situation, more like a system where if your pockets are deep enough, you kind of, I don't know, get to write the rules a little bit.
Yeah, and whether the rules we have now can even handle that kind of power, especially when people are scared, that's a whole other can of worms.
Right, because when people are afraid, they're more likely to just accept anything that sounds like a solution without too much questioning. And if BlackRock's really playing 4D chess here.
Exactly. And it's not a new trick, right? This whole revolving door between Wall Street and the government, that's been going on forever.
They call out BlackRock specifically for having their ex-executives in the current administration, too. Brian Deese, right? Used to be with BlackRock. Now he's the director of the National Economic Council.
And then you've got Michael Pyle. He was a big deal over at BlackRock, global chief investment strategist or something. Now he's got his hands in shaping international economic policy. I mean, are these just qualified people serving their country?
Or is it something a little, I don't know, a little more self-serving? And if it is, how do we even begin to untangle that?
The million-dollar question.
Right.
Right. But even just asking it, looking at how this all works, I mean, that's got to be step one.
All right, so big players, maybe too much influence, definitely some shady timing. But how's this whole neo-feudalism thing actually supposed to play out? Like, what are the real-world stakes here?
Well, the article paints a pretty stark picture when it comes to the middle class, or I guess the lack of one.
Yeah, that's definitely a hot topic. Everyone's worried about it, right? The gap between the haves and the have-nots just keeps growing. So connect the dots for me. How does this tie back to BlackRock?
Basically, the policies these big institutions love, like deregulation, those sweet, sweet corporate tax cuts, even the cost of education, healthcare, all of it, it might sound good on paper, but who's really benefiting?
Not exactly the folks struggling to make rent, I'm guessing.
Exactly. It's like this feedback loop. The rich get richer, their influence grows, they lobby for policies that make them even richer, and on we go. Meanwhile, everyone else is stuck footing the bill, trying to keep up.
So we end up with, what, a tiny elite hoarding all the wealth and power? Like a real-life Monopoly game, but nobody gets to be the shoe?
Essentially, yeah. The article really lays it out. If it keeps going unchecked, we're not that far off from those feudal societies. It's not a perfect one-to-one, but the power imbalance is the same.
Okay, hold up. Feudalism in the 21st century. What does that even look like? Are we all going to be, like, digitally sharecropping for our corporate overlords or something?
It might not be that literal, but the core idea is the same. This tiny elite, they're the ones with the resources, shaping everything, the government, technology, you name it.
And everyone else is just stuck.
More or less, yeah. They rely on these big entities for everything, jobs, essential services, even information. Upward mobility, having a real say in how things are run, not so much.
Man, that took a turn. And this is where technology comes in, right? Specifically AI, the article talks about that too.
Oh, absolutely. This is where things get really interesting. They bring up people like Eric Schmidt, former Google CEO,
Right.
even Henry Kissinger, and they both talked about this. AI could split us into two classes.
Two classes, like what? The AI haves and the AI have-nots.
Think about it. One group, They get it, they control it, they benefit from AI. The rest, they're basically at the mercy of algorithms, jobs, healthcare, everything.
So instead of lords and serfs, it's like the algorithm whisperers versus everyone else.
In a way, yeah.
Yeah.
And that brings up a whole other set of questions about power, control, what it even means to be human when algorithms are calling the shots.
Whoa, okay. Big, big stuff. So we've got potential overreach from these financial giants, this whole neo-feudal system thing, AI changing the game entirely. Before we jump into what any of this even means for us, what's the TLDR on how these pieces fit together?
I think the takeaway here is that we're at a crossroads. And the choices we make now, how we deal with these massive companies, how we develop and use AI, even just addressing this growing inequality, that's going to determine what the future looks like
Yeah.
for everyone.
Man, this is a lot. We're talking corporate power, neo-feudalism, AI upending everything. It's easy to feel kind of small in all of this. Like, what can we even do? But we can't just throw in the towel, right? So let's talk about, taking back some control. The future isn't set in stone, is it?
Not at all. And I think just realizing that, that's huge. Awareness is where it starts.
Mm.
Once you understand what's going on, what we're potentially up against, then you can actually start making choices.
Mm.
Informed choices about the kind of world you want to live in.
Okay, so besides doom scrolling and panicking, what are our options? What can people actually do if they're, I don't know, a little freaked out by all this and they want to, actually be part of the solution?
Well, first off, keep learning. Keep digging. And I don't just mean reading headlines. I mean really going deep. Find different perspectives, especially the ones that make you uncomfortable.
Yeah, get out of those echo chambers, right? Challenge yourself to understand where other people are coming from, even if you're like, no way, absolutely not.
Exactly. That's how you build those critical thinking muscles. You start having real conversations about these complicated issues. And as you're doing that, look at who's telling you what, who's funding that website, what are their biases. You got to be savvy.
Be your own BS detector. Follow the money, check the sources, make sure you're getting the full story, not just somebody's agenda. 100%. And don't keep it all to yourself. Talk to people. Your family, friends, that barista you always chat with, bring it up. Share what you're learning, hash it out.
Right. Even if it feels like these huge systems, corporations, governments, whatever, even if it feels like they're calling all the shots, at least we can understand it together. That's got to count for something.
It counts for a lot. Shared understanding can lead to action. Get involved locally, support organizations fighting for economic justice, tell your elected officials what you think. Your voice matters.
All great points. And you know what really hit me while prepping for this is that this isn't just like theoretical. Corporate power, wealth inequality, technology changing everything. This affects real people right now. Absolutely. It's not just an academic debate. It's about people's lives. And I think when we can connect those dots, when we see how these big forces are playing out in our own communities, in our own families, that's powerful. That's what makes you want to do something.
Exactly. This isn't somebody else's problem. This is all of us, right? We've got to own that, own our future, and fight for it.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, take this with you. Don't just listen and forget. Let it spark something in you. Be curious, be critical, and get in the game. We're building the future together, whether we realize it or not.
That's all the time we have for today. Until next time, keep asking those tough questions and keep digging for those answers. We'll see you next time.